Hi, how you doing? Hope everyone's well, everyone's safe. Today's video is going to be called A Message from a Friend, and it's inspired by a book that I read about 6 months ago by a guy called Dr. Peter Fenwick. He's a neuropsychologist. So he's works with the brain, but he's a psychologist as well, and his job is basically working with people with brain damage, so he understands the brain, the physical workings of it, and then the consciousness, not the consciousness, the psychology that goes with it, you know, because he's a psychologist as well. And he's studied near-death experiences for a long time. He's retired now, so his books and his ideas and his videos and stuff like that are really seriously based in a scientific point of view, or the scientific way of looking at it, how he understands how the brain works and stuff like that. So the book was called The Art of Dying by Peter Fenwick. I'll leave a description below for Dr. Fenwick's YouTube channel, and there's a cracking interview. If you watch that, it's really good. I'll leave a link for that, and I'll leave a link for the book as well. So in the book, as I was reading it, I come across a thing about visitations from people who had passed away, and the visitation is very close to the time when the person passes away and leaves a message with somebody else, well, whether they're sleeping or they just get a feeling of, oh my God, something's wrong. And this is something that happened to me quite a few years ago. The guy I'm going to talk about, I've changed his name, so I'm going to call him Dave, just because of his family and stuff like that. This is more of a story of this experience that I had. So a little bit of background first. What I used to work for Ford, delivering cars, and what I'd do is pick up the car, take it to somewhere, anywhere in the country, get on the train, work my way back. And there was a group of about 10, 12 drivers, and I'd say a good 80% of them were all retired guys, just filling their days up basically. And my mate Dave was one of the guys. He was in his late 70s. Fantastic fella. I got on with him like house on fire. He had a great sense of humour, lovely fella. It was one of the he's one of them type of people. Is my boss would say, "You're going with Dave, and you're taking these cars here," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have a great day," because some of the conversations we had were brilliant. He was just the nicest guy you could meet. Didn't like people bullshitting him. He liked people up front and straight. Very similar to myself, and we had the same sort of sense of humour as well. So a little bit of a story. One of the other guys was I had a like sciatica or a trapped nerve or something, and after 6 months he was hobbling around on a stick, and he was well into his 70s, and the doctors had tried everything, and he was no better. My boss just turned and said, "Well, why don't you let Danny do some of this Reiki stuff, treatment on you?" And he was, open to it. So I had a chat. I explained everything of how I believe it to work, what Reiki was all about. That's another video that we'll do. And I said to him, "Go away, have a chat with your wife. Have a chat with your mates. Come back to me, and please, if you're not interested, please, you will not offend me. If you say no, I said, but if you just look at it this way, the doctors have done everything they can, and you know better. I said, you could have this treatment. If it works, you're all right again. If it doesn't work, you're still in the same boat. You've got nothing to lose. So he went off, chatted with his mates, chatted with his wife, come back to me and said, yeah, I'll give it a go. And one of the guys that he talked to was my mate Dave. So I'm coming back from a job. I get on the train in Crewe, heading towards Chester. Get on the train. There's my mate Dave, a couple of others. Dave straight away, have you heard what Martin's doing? He's getting into this spiritual healing stuff. That was Dave's way of saying to me, what's going on, Dan? You know, I sort of asked indirectly. He knew it was me who was giving him the treatments, but he wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. And so I sat there and I explained what it was all about. And fair dues to him, he turned around and he said, I don't believe in this. He said, but I know you're not a bullshitter. He said, and I hope it works for Martin because he's a lovely guy and blah, blah, blah. So on the weekend, I went give Martin a treatment. Couple of days, they had a few days off, walks in on the Wednesday, no stick, right as rain. What I didn't know was the first person he actually bumped into was my mate Dave, or our friend Dave. And he was blown away. Dave was blown away, and I bumped into him, bumped into Dave a few days later, and he was like, Dan, he said, if I haven't seen it with my own eyes, I would never believe it. And he was just gobsmacked. Fair dues to him, he was just gobsmacked. Like I said, he doesn't like people bullshitting him, and I'm not a bullshitter, and it just, he said I would never believe it. So about 12 months later, I get off the train in Chester. I go over and get the number 4 bus, and my mate Dave's sitting on the bus. And I walked over. He said, "Hi, Danny boy, how you doing?" Always call me Danny boy. And I said, "I'm good, how are you?" And he said, "I've been a bit poorly." He said, "I haven't been sleeping." He said, "I'm going to the doctor's tomorrow." He said, "I'm not going tonight because I'm going out for a pint with the lads." He said, "But I haven't slept all week." He said, "I had this about 20 years ago, you know." He said, "So the doctor will give me some antibiotics and I'll be back in work in a week or two." Right. And that's how the conversation went. So I get to my stop. He's getting off the next one along. I get off the bus, and as the bus pulls away, I wave at my mate Dave. And I had this sinking feeling that was the last time I'd see him. And it was true. It was the last time I physically saw my mate Dave. His daughter worked in the dealership as well. His daughter was my age. So about a week later, I got into work and we'd found out that Dave was riddled in cancer and he didn't have long to go. He kept on jumping into my mind. You know, and every time he jumped into my mind, all I got was the feeling of, do not interfere. This is not your place. You know, I help people. I try my best to help people. I'm not a miracle worker. This is a natural thing. A natural part of life is death. There's 3 things in life that we 100% know. The first one is we're physically born. The second one is we do not know what will happen in our life. And the third one is we will physically die. We will physically pass away. So, one or two of the lads had been up to see him. One of the lads pulled me to one side. He said, I saw Dave last night. He said, he's looking very poorly. He said, you know you helped Martin? I'm like, yeah. He said, is there anything you can do for Dave? I'm like, I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm not allowed to interfere. I said, if I interfere, it will just prolong the inevitable. And as much as I want to go and see him, I won't. And he never asked for me. He never asked for me at all, which was a good thing. So, from the last time I saw him on the bus, 6 weeks later, at this point now, my Jan's working a 12-hour shift at the high dependency unit. I go to bed. She's working nights, I go to bed. I woke up about 5:30 in the morning. I thought, I'm sod this, I'm not getting up now. I went to the toilet, went back to bed. I woke up at 8:30. Now Jan gets in around about just after 8:30, and I like to get up and make her a brew and toast. She's had a long shift, you know. So, and I'd had this amazing dream, and I had this message from Dave. And the dream goes like this. The dream lasted all of about 10 seconds. The dream goes, I drove into the forecourt of the dealership where we worked. And as I looked over, standing in the doorway of the old building was Dave and somebody else, another guy. Who the other guy was, I don't know. My focus was just on Dave. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful summer's day. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's lovely and warm. There's no wind. It's just, you know, one of them perfect days, you know. I get out of the car and Dave walks over with this guy behind him, whoever he was. I don't know who. And he was probably, he looked around about early 40s. You know, he looked younger, he looked as fit as a fiddle. He had his tray plates in one hand and he had his t-shirt in the other, and he was bare chested. It was a beautiful day. He had his black work pants on and he walks over. And he was glowing, and I'm not saying physically glowing like a light bulb, but you know when you say people glow, you can feel the energy coming out from them. They're glowing. Well, he was like that. He wasn't physically glowing, but glowing. If you understand what I mean by that. He was glowing. And I said to him, nice to see you back, Dave. You're looking well. And he said, all right, Danny boy. He said, everything's all right now. Everything's just fine. And the dream ends there, stops, nothing else. That's it. Now I'm telling Jan this, and she's like, you do know that he's passed away? And I said, well, yeah, I get that feeling. I do get that feeling. But one of the lads will message me, let me know. And all day I didn't hear a thing. I was like, okay, didn't hear a thing at all. I walked into the office Monday morning. I had to go and get some expenses, get some money. And I said to the woman working there, I said, how's Dave doing? Because I had this amazing dream and I told her all about it. And she's looking at me proper bewildered, and she said, you haven't heard, have you? I'm like, no. She said, Dave passed away at 6:10 on Sunday morning. So I hadn't had the dream up to 5:30. I had the dream between 5:30 and 8:30, which kind of like works out with the time of my mate Dave's passing. So now I'm like, this message was not for me. I honestly feel that message was not for me. I think it was more for his family. And I've waited until the time was right, when I got that nudge that says, this is the time to tell his daughter. And it was 6 months later of his passing that I was walking across the forecourt and his daughter was walking down, and it was just like a dig in the ribs. I said, this is the time. So I pulled us to one side and I explained the dream that I had, and I was so happy that she took this information as, you know, me being honest. And I personally feel that I've got this wonderful last memory of someone that I thought dearly of, who was such a great person. And I feel quite privileged in a way that he chose me. Maybe because he knew that I would be sensitive and about the situation, and waiting for the time was right to pass that information on to his family. But going back to Dr. Fenwick's book, when I started reading this paragraph, this chapter, it was like, oh my God, this is quite a thing. This has been documented so many times, and here's me who'd had this experience years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, and then I'm reading the same sort of thing in this book that is being documented by medical professionals. It's a weird world that we live in, and I thought you guys might have wanted to hear the story, so I hope you're all good, you're all safe, and we will do another video soon. Take care and behave yourselves.